So the differences between Sales-Centric, Design-Centric, and Systems-Centric, back when I was meeting with Mark out in California, and we were talking about what Elli could be, would be, directions. One of the things that Mark was intent on, and I was in agreement with, is ongoing education. And during that time, we talked about filling a gap, which was being able to get some ongoing education from home while you're busy with family and your work, rather than traveling to an event, being gone for a week and the money that entails, and being away from your work. What could there be some type of ongoing education via Zoom meeting? So one of the things that I worked on was just my process, or that I wanted to teach was my process with my prospect, to the point that they're a client, sign up for a project, do the installation, and do the reveal. And I don't remember, Mark, jump in if you remember, but I don't remember in California when we were talking, or any time in the recent months after that I came up with these three terms. I think I do know it happened because I went back and looked at my notes, that when I was building my class, DCCR, Design-Centric Client Relationship class, the reason for coming up with that name was, as I was trying to put together how it was I dealt with my client, I realized in our own business and in other lighting businesses that I've been involved with, relationship-wise, that I found that there were typically, in a lighting landscape, low voltage landscape lighting business, I've seen businesses out there that were their focus, they were sales-centric, some that are system-centric, and some that are design-centric. And I as I talked about in my class, there's a couple out there, as the company I work for, NiteLiters, is trying to do. We're trying to move all three of those to, if you think of a pyramid, what I noticed with a lot of companies is one of these three is at the top, and the other two are somewhere below it. The best companies, and what NiteLiters is trying to strive for, is having all three at the top of the pyramid simultaneously. And I just got a dose of this again just the last couple of days, which is part of what we're going to talk about. There are so many companies out there that are sales-centric. I mean, if you go on social media, that's all they're talking about, is different systems you can put in place to close the sale to make money. And there's very little talk about design. So what we're going to talk today a little bit about is the differences. They're pretty, right off the top, sales-centric is pretty self-explanatory. It's just about sales. Y'all can hang with me just a second here. I want to get my study guide out. I can't remember, Mark, if I actually wrote this in here, and I'll go ahead and read it. One moment, please.
Yeah, I think while you're searching,
sales,
go ahead.
So define sales-centric. A sales-centric organization is focused on two objectives. One, meeting sales numbers, and two, increasing market share. These two objectives take priority over any other consideration and provide permission to do whatever it takes to achieve them. That's a lot of what I feel when I read social media, different social media posts in low voltage lighting. System-centric. A system-centric organization is focused on quality measures, data sets, policies, procedures, etc. These objectives are put into place to implement, monitor, and increase business effectiveness, congruency, and growth. Then lastly, design-centric. A design-centric organization is focused on a collaborative relationship of design and the designer, human needs, and the customer. It's not about the design process, which is what the designer must do to achieve an end result. Rather, it's establishing this collaboration to solve problems, to find the best possible solution. So I'm going to read that last part again, because towards the end of this, we're going to go through some examples of a design-centric relationship that I think you all should strive to have with your potential clients. It's not about the design process. That's not what design-centric is. It's not about the specific design process. That's what a designer must do to achieve the end result. Rather, it's establishing this collaboration to solve problems to find the best possible solution. And I'm going to add on to this for your potential client. Then I've got something in quotes here I want to read to everyone who listens to this. Everything we use is designed more meticulously than we think. From the teacups we drink from, to the smartphones we communicate on, to the software that lets us bank online, to our entertainment experiences and more. Design thinking, applying design tools and processes to business problems, has become a preferred business methodology. For many companies, design is becoming how they lead, innovate, get ahead, and most importantly, stay ahead. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that the design-centric process is in our situation with low voltage lighting. I'm not referring to the actual designing lighting design. It's just having a design-centric mindset with your prospect. So Mark, can you go ahead and roll to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to show you a picture of two homes that I was at just this past Monday and Tuesday. Mark, go to the next one. So this is my world in the region, part of the country that I work in. When we started in 98, there was no one doing low voltage lighting. And so we thought, the world was going to be our oyster. And it was fact very hard because no one had very few jobs. I mean, maybe 5 or 6 that I can even think of, maybe had low voltage lighting in the town that I live in. But across the region, there just wasn't many jobs. And because no one knew of it, it was hard for them to understand. And something I think back to is like, I don't know if any of you remember this, but it's like we had those big 300-pound TVs, and then all of a sudden a plasma TV came out. When I first saw it in the store, my mind was blown away. It was cool, but then I saw the price of $8,000, and I was like, holy criminy, that's a lot of money. No way I'm affording that. And I felt that with the low voltage lighting a little bit. It's just, it was so new to people that it took some time. And actually, I think what helped us is competition. The more people that do lighting, the more people are going to want lighting. So then I am competing on a design-centric basis with potential competition. So this job that you're looking at, I met with them Monday. I'd actually met with them the week before. And I can always, I can't always tell, but I can kind of get an inkling when I believe somebody is getting bids or having other lighting people look at their job. Because when I sit down, I typically ask them why I'm here, even though they may have told me. I ask them again. And sometimes the person is particularly fluent with why I'm there, as they were. They said, well, we think we want some uplighting for the front of our house and on the columns. And I don't know if y'all can see it, but to the left in front of that Suburban, there's a little Japanese maple, and to the right of that red car, you can't see it in the background, there's a big birch tree. And she even said, we want some light in the birch tree and light in the Japanese maple. Then we want light up in the trees going up the driveway, which you can't see in this picture. And it was just a lot of information, almost like they'd met with somebody and somebody had told them what they were wanting to do. And so lo and behold, if, as many of you know, during the consultation, I typically divide things up into zones. I give them a ballpark price, and then I tell them what the design fee will be for each of the zones. Well, they wanted to think. He first said, well, let us think about it. And then before I left, he said, well, we're getting other bids. I was like, okay. So I felt I'd done my best to make that design-centric connection with them, which I will get into a little bit later. But I left, and within a few days, she had texted me and said, we're going to go ahead and we'd like to move forward with the design with you and pay you your design fee. And when I came out there Monday, which that's when I took this picture, I sat around back with her on their back porch, and we were talking, and she got out her big iPad and was showing me. What I found interesting is there were two other companies that gave them estimates, or they attempted to get estimates from. One was your typical, was a franchise. I'm not going to name names, uh, but it was a franchise, and she called them 3 times and they never called her back. The other business that I was pleasantly surprised was a company that has been around 30 plus years in this area. And I didn't know what to expect. They've been in business 30 years because they must be doing something right. But she told me the guy came out, walked around, told her where he wanted to put lights, and all he did was email her the different zones. Basically, he had sent her a proposal, but it was each email had like the fountain area, the trees going up the driveway, and he'd broken it up like we did, like NiteLiters does, into zones. But he had sent her a separate email. He didn't even bother to go back out and meet with her, but he didn't charge her a design fee either. So this ended up being a rather large job if they accept all zones, um, probably around $60,000. But a very nice property. I think it's 5 acres, a pond in the front. They have a pond in the back. So this is when I approach these people from a design-centric perspective. I'm just very curious. I'm asking, why am I there? But on a larger job like this, it's very easy for me to be design-centric because it's a beautiful property. Now, Mark, go back to the other one. So the very next day, Tuesday at 4 p.m., this past Tuesday, I had a consultation with the homeowner of this house. And I will tell you all that I almost broke one of my own rules. Um, I I typically do what I call pre-approach before I go meet somebody, meaning I'll pull up on Zillow their home, look at the value of it. Sometimes you can tell a lot of information about how long they've been there, what they have left on their mortgage, etc. And when I pulled this up, my immediate thought was, well, they're not going to be my client. I mean, you can see the solar lights in the underneath that Japanese maple in the very in the front. And I happened to know when he called and left information with our office person, he had said that they've been using solar lights and wanted to step it up. Well, I've heard that before. And step it up means instead of spending $50 on the front, they're ready to go all out and spend 300 or 400. So my boss even called me a couple hours before I was to go on this appointment. He said, Chris, did you look up where you're going? I said, yeah. He goes, you think you should maybe call them so you don't waste your time? And I almost did. I almost called them to qualify him. But I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So I removed that from my mind. I pulled up and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what they wanted. He came out. I did my same thing where he came out to me. He was ready to walk around, and I said, do you mind if we go inside and talk for a bit? So I stayed with my process. I didn't change the process because I thought I was wasting my time. We just went and sat in. We didn't sit in there very long. He said, well, all we really want is some lighting on this front brick wall, not over the garage, nothing around the garage, nothing on the right-hand side, nothing, just some light on the brick wall, and then the Japanese maple you can see. And then if you look at the shadows in the grass to the left, there's a crepe myrtle. He just wanted some uplight in the Japanese maple, the crepe myrtle, and something on the building. So I just slowed down. I went outside and gave it some thought, and I came up with a way to illuminate their home that would be different. They were thinking they wanted some uplights on the front of the home. And I told them, they could do that, but they could also be different. I don't know if y'all can see it, but they have this piece of wall art right below their gable. It has these white, it's a metal piece of art, and it has some white painted flowers. And I said, I could put a downlight at the gable that would draw your eye because those white flowers are very reflective. So nutshell, they paid me a smaller design fee than I typically accept, but I had the drawing done in about 3 minutes. It didn't take very much to draw. And I had the design done within 5. I was done in 10 minutes and gone. So I found that when I left there with albeit a smaller design fee than my typical minimum is, I still felt great that I was helping them, and at least the budget is what it is. The price is the price. If it was a fit, it was a fit. If not, it's not. So I didn't know, but we're not. I'm only putting 3 lights on this home, or 1 on the home and 1 under each tree, under each shrub. So it's not a very extensive project, but it's going to be different for them. It's not just regular up lights, at least on the architecture, because we're doing a down light. So that is not sales centric. I do have to make sales. So as I told you at the very beginning, to me, the best companies are trying to move all 3 to the top. I'm aware that I need to make sales in order to put food on my family's table. The company needs to make sales to stay in business. I have systems in place. Once I meet with the client and I move forward, we have very specific systems we have to run through in order to get the drawing ready, the proposal ready, then go meet with them. Once we meet with them, there's systems in place for ordering, there's systems in place for lighting, for starting the job, there's systems in place for ending the job, and then there's more systems in place for ongoing service. So our company is full of different types of systems. But Design-Centric, when I met with them and got to meet with his wife, because the first time I walked in there, she was around in another room with her daughter and didn't come out to meet with me. The second time I came in there to talk about money, she was in there and I was talking to her. And what I found out at the very end is that he is a newer husband. It's her house and it's her money. So it was just kind of interesting to go through that. But because my mind was not focused on just sales, what I could do to get them to sign up, I was design centric in my thought process of what I could do to connect with them. That piece of art she's had up there, it's a special piece of art to her. So the fact that I was referring to it and thinking about it being somewhat the star of that scene as people drive by, that's how I was connecting to her on a human basis, if that makes sense. So what I wanted to talk about it from a design-centric perspective is something that I always do that gets my mind in a design-centric space right off the bat, right when I knock on the door. Of course, I want to go inside and sit down, and typically we're going to go sit in the kitchen. We're going to sit at the dining room table the breakfast table that's off the kitchen. So what I do to focus in on a design-centric mindset is I want to put myself where they are in their life. And I just did this again at a consultation I was at last night. After I sit there and ask, why am I here? And we talk about that, inevitably, most of the time, they are calling about lighting the front of their home. And I explained to them, I said, well, we'll call that zone A. I said, now, if there's any other zones that you are considering, now's the time for you to dream, because I'm going to go outside, come up with a ballpark and a design fee for all of those at no cost to you. So inevitably, we start talking about other zones, which usually is the back of the home. So once they start talking about, yeah, well, like last night, they said, well, we have this deck here, then we have a pool down here that you can't see because it's lower. They had a walkout basement. Then they had a flower bed outside their fence that went down the side of a hill. There's a lake behind them. They have a dock there. So they were talking about those things. I couldn't see those things, but what I could see was we were sitting in their sunroom, and they had all these just floor to ceiling windows with horizontal shutters, but they were all open. And then I could look behind me and see their kitchen. And off one of the kitchen windows was a view of the pool. I couldn't see it. And then behind me and to my right was their TV room. And it was like one big area. And off the TV room, there was a big bay window that looked down at the pond. So I sat there and I said to them, and this is something that you can say regardless if you know or not. I tell this prospect that I've known maybe 10 minutes, I said, okay, well, typically, uh, if we light the front of your home, that's going to be something that you're going to see for 5 to 7 seconds. You pull in your garage and that view is gone for most. And most of the windows that face the front of the home, not every home, but most homes, the windows that face the front of the home aren't rooms that you're in after dark. And at least here in Kentucky, in our region, your windows that typically face the front of the home are going to be your garage windows off the sidecar garage. It's going to be the dining room that gets used once or twice a year. It's going to be the a spare bedroom that never, that rarely gets used. It's going to be a formal sitting room or a piano room, or it might be a guest bedroom. And that's how it is for most, not all. And typically, just like what happened to me last night, I speak those words and I watch their heads start nodding. And I'll even, most of the time when I'm sitting in the kitchen in the bathroom, I don't know where their master bedroom is. But so I'll say, so, I say in most master bedrooms, the windows face the back, or they have a bathroom that faces the back. And that's, again, is when their heads are typically nodding, not all the time. But if I'm wrong, then they jump up, they right there to correct me, to say, oh, well, it just so happens, our master bedroom, our window faces the front. But all that information is good information, because what I'm trying to do to connect with them from a design perspective, a design-centric perspective, and as a human, is I want to connect with them where they live. Where they live is actually in that home. So I can't do anything about how they live in the daytime, but I can have an effect from a design-centric perspective on how they live after dark, meaning what they see or what they're not seeing. So if you understand that most of the windows that people don't spend time in after dark face the front, that even takes less, that to me, that removes another level of importance of lighting the front. Now, the other thing about a lot of homes in our part of the country, there's nothing in the front. If they did use the windows, if they could look through the windows after dark, most of them don't have anything to look at except the street, maybe a little ornamental tree, but they're just looking at a neighbor's house across the street. So the windows that face the back, are usually they're looking at their deck, their hot tub, their pool, a pond, all the trees, all the landscaping, the fire pit area, all the stuff that you put in your backyard. So what I tell them is, what I want to try to do, and in my mind, this is my design-centric approach, is I want to affect how they live after dark, what they see, what they don't see. And this is a term that I'm sure you all have heard in our industry a lot, and that is to turn those black mirrors that are your windows after dark, turn those into picture windows. So that's, Mark, you can go to the next slide. That's what I wanted to talk about for the rest of this class. So this is my house. So I wanted to share something interesting about this. When we bought this house in 2015, it sits at the end of a cul-de-sac. It's deeper than it is wide, and it was built in 2003. It was a parade home, so it was landscaped pretty thoroughly. So now, 20 years later plus, all that landscape has grown pretty big, and my wife and I added some stuff. But basically, when I did a lighting design for this house, I wanted, I think it's what they call a story and a half, like the second story. We have a second story, but it's not 8-foot ceilings all the way across. So we just have a window at one end of the second story, some skylights, and then a window at the back end. I know this isn't a shotgun home, but I grew up in St. Louis, and that's what I always think of when a home is deeper than it is wide. So there isn't a lot to out our front door. We look across into a cul-de-sac with neighbors. Out the back, we have a little lake behind us. But because all the landscape that was put in was decent, and like I said, my wife and I added some right off the bat, I wanted to light the home from the inside out. So right here, I lit this light at the front door. While it does provide downlight, so if somebody walks up to the door, their face is lit, I wanted that leaded glass pattern thrown on the floor. So Mark, go to the next one. This is the kitchen. So there's a pear tree that was planted when the home was built right outside. So I wanted to see that pear tree. from inside. Now it's the kitchen. So one thing to think about when you're lighting from the inside out or the outside in, I'm not sure which is the better way to express that, but you have to remember, you know, when people are using their kitchen typically after dark, they have lights on. And if they have lights on, their pupil's going to be somewhat constricted. And if you light that pear tree up, if I'd have lit that pear tree up such that it looked good, if you go out there and sit for 10 minutes, you know, on the patio, it would probably not be bright enough to really be noticed through the window. So I actually have 3 uplights underneath that, and they're not overly bright, but they're brighter than they would be had it been like off your back patio. Mark, you can go to the next one. So right above our sink is the skylight above there at the top of the picture. And that pear tree had gotten big enough that I noticed by day that I could see the tree. Well, if I can see the tree by day up there, I want to see that same tree at night. So I'm not going to get too much into the details other than to tell you there's a gutter that runs along outside there. And the light at the base of the tree, by the time the light gets up, well, first of all, it's a pear tree. And I don't know if y'all know, pear trees are pretty thickly, densely leafed. So they block light. And I had to put a light up in the gutter to hit the top part of the tree so I could see it through the sky window, because just having lights from the ground wouldn't have had the pop or the reflective light that I needed up there to see it. So we've gone for our front door. Now we're swinging through the kitchen. You can go to the next one, Mark.
You know, a real quick comment. What I also like about it, I mean, look at the amount of light on the inside of the house there, and you've got up here towards the ceiling, and you're still able to see all that through,
Yep.
which is impressive. So
Yeah,
anyway,
because the light, there's where that ivy is, that fake ivy. You
yeah,
know, we've got those little puck lights, and they're on.
yeah,
You know, that shine up. Yep.
right. Very nice. Oops, there you go.
Okay, so this is our door that goes out to a little screened-in porch, and all I want you to notice is you see on the left window is a fake fern, and over on the right is a fake fern that's in the screened-in porch. And I have a downlight there, so those are actually I put the downlight there, and my wife bought the pots and the ferns so they could be lit. And then if you look through the screened-in porch, you'll see the some crepe myrtles out there. So again, just providing some depth. And in that picture, I mean, the TV's on, there's a light on in the room, but I think that's mainly the TV light. Okay, you can go to the next one. This is my wife's office. So when we moved in, I don't know what plant was in front of her window, but we bought this plant. It's some type of a fragrant plant her grandma had that as a little girl, she loved smelling. So we put it in front of her window, knowing it would get really big. And then it's not very dense, but it gets big and it has a really beautiful aroma in the springtime. She can open the windows and it could blow in there. But you see the pear tree behind it. There's another pear tree. So there's a light underneath her plant that's throwing shadows up onto the ceiling with her plant. That's the leaves of her plant. And then of course we lit the pear tree. But that pear tree is in our front yard, but I did not light that pear tree for people to drive by and go, pretty pear tree. It's the first design-centric thought was what my wife sees when she goes to work in that room after dark. All right, you can go to the next one, Mark. This is our master bedroom. So right off our master bedroom, window on the left is a dogwood, which if any of you know dogwoods, they bloom for about a month every year in the spring, and ours is white. So we get that pretty look. Then you get of course, the green leaves. And then what I love about it as much is the wintertime when we get snow or ice, a little ice, it clings to the branches. So it changes through the seasons. So it's kind of, I'm not saying we get excited for fall or excited for spring because of, what the view will be, but it's something that I know it's coming and I look forward to it. Seeing those, especially the white blooms, because it really makes that view different than when it's green, or of course, when the leaves are off. You can go to the next one, Mark. So now my wife would not going to be happy that I took a couple of these pictures, but because this is all, that's our life. That's how things are. But this window, you look through that window, on the other side of that wall, there's about 5 feet, and that's the end of my property. And the neighbor has an iron fence there, and the neighbor has their own trees. I went over and knocked on their door and asked them if I could light some of their trees, and without putting fixtures on their property. These fixtures are attached to my house, just cross lighting a tree in their backyard, which they had no problem with, so that I could get some light, or so I could have a view, or that my family could have a view through that window. You can go to the next one. If it's the one I think that's coming, shows you. Yeah, we can't tell her that I shared this one.
Okay.
Because, yeah, she would not be happy with all that stuff sitting out.
Oh,
But
I'm
look
gonna Facebook post all this. This will be great.
at, yeah, be
No.
sure to at her, right? Uh, but that, again, that arched window there, that tree is not on our property. It's our neighbor's property. But they let me cross light it from my property so that we could turn that black mirror into a picture window.
Very good. Go to the next. Did I lose you, Chris? Uh-oh.
We'll see.
Yeah, it looks like it froze up.
Wow. Well,
Let's see if he'll pop back in here. All right, tell us the story, Gary. What do you think?
I think, I don't know what to think. I'm looking at Chris and it's like, did his system freeze up?
I think so. He'll probably
Just
exit and then he'll pop back in as much. Yeah, see, he
Yeah.
just did that. So he'll
pop
be.
out first though.
I think one of the things he had mentioned earlier when we were, this was a couple of years ago when we met here in California for like one of our first meetings as Elli. You know, we were talking about the differences and how can we be different as a group, and what should this focus be? And then that's kind of how we started pushing down this whole path, because you know me, I've been very excited and involved with design and how it affects people emotionally and things like that.
Sure.
So that's where that whole design-centric side of came to light.
Mark.
Yes, you're back.
Oh, good.
We
All
were
right,
just
so
talking a little bit more, so go ahead.
I don't know what happened, but I just had to get out and come back in.
There you go.
Okay, so you can move on to the next photo. All right, so this is one, forgive the resolution. It was just taken with my iPhone. That's not what I'm not trying to tell you how pretty it is. It is beautiful. This was a job we finished a week or so ago. And on the other side of this wall is, if you can picture, to the right is like, their garage doors, and then you go down a bunch of steps. And as you go down these stone steps to go around to the back of their house, you look up and see this beautiful leaded glass window. Well, I've been around enough homes to know that usually when you see leaded glass windows or you see glass block windows, that's usually a bathroom, and it's usually the master. So when they wanted some lighting for the steps, and they actually were just wanting a bunch of path lights going down the steps. And I said, okay, well, and they had that already with solar, but they were another couple they were just getting frustrated with their solar lighting. I said, I can light these steps, light all the beautiful hosta around the steps, and throw some light through that leaded glass window, which I'm guessing is your master bedroom. Yeah, you're right. We can do all that. And then we can also take the light from the outside and bring it inside. And sure enough, we went to do the reveal. I walked in their bedroom. That's when I snapped this picture. And what I told them, and what I told them before, but what I told them that resonated like it did in the first time I told them, is that, it's that 2 o'clock in the morning when you wake up, your pupil is as dilated as it's going to get. And you go to the bathroom because you got to use the restroom. Well, if you turn a light on, it kind of starts waking you up. And that's why a lot of people put, little night lights. so that they want to see so they don't stub their toe, but they don't want to flip lights on and, you know, disturb their mate or wake up too much, right? So I stood there and I said it again, and they were I could just see their eyes open up. But that was a great design-centric thing, opportunity when I was meeting with them, talking to them about my lighting design, but connecting with them where they live and how they live, and then also finally bringing the outdoor light in. Next one, Mark. Okay, so there's a brighter, I probably left the, it's brighter, but it's not that bright. It's not as dark as the first one. It's not as bright as that one. Go to the next one. I don't know if that's it or not.
That was it on those two.
Yeah, okay. So again, this one is off of the next one, Mark, the water shot. Yeah, okay. So this one is just off of my side patio. I told you my house is deeper than it is wide, so I don't have like a rear patio. I have a rear screened-in porch, but then my whole patio thing is kind of on the right-hand side. And you can see again the crepe myrtle to the right there. That was lit for the view inside, looking through the screened-in door. Now it's also nice when you sit out here on the patio. And then the willow, interestingly enough, is lit. My son's bedroom is upstairs, and he looks at the lit willow every night. But also we lit that from all the way around. But if anyone knows anything about willows, they're not very densely leafed, so light does penetrate through them nicely. But the bonus is, for me, is the lighting that I did outside. The first design-centric concern was about how I live inside. The secondary concern, design-centric concern, was how I want to live and enjoy outside. But inside was first. Go to the next one, Mark, or is that it?
Let's see. Oh, that was it. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Just go back to the beginning.
Okay. This one or the other one?
No, just back to the difference between the very first slide, slide one.
That one?
Slide number one.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. So that being said, I want to go back and read this one more time. Sales-centric. A sales-centric organization is focused on two objectives. One, meeting sales numbers. Two, increasing market share. These two objectives take priority over any other consideration and provide permission to do whatever it takes to achieve them. So when I see people, when I hear other people in our business talk or see on social media where they've got like, you know, we've got a silver, a gold, and a platinum package. You know, they are putting sales priority over any other consideration, and it gives them permission to do whatever it takes to achieve them, or in their case, make the sale. That is sales-centric. Nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of companies out there doing millions of dollars, but that's not where I want to be. I do need to have an element of me that is sales-centric. If I'm not thinking about sales, then I might get along and connect with people in how's that one guy say? Always in all ways. But if I'm not making sales, I'm not going to be having clients. I won't have a job. So you can't not have an element of sales-centric in your pyramid. That needs to be up there, but it can't be, for me, it's not what guides my ship. System-centric, I think of you, Gary Mitchell. A system-centric organization is focused on quality measures, data sets, policies, procedures, etc. These objectives are put into place to implement, monitor, and increase business effectiveness, congruency, and growth. Now, I can tell you this, I am not system-centric as a person, but I appreciate the systems that we have in place in our company because they do make a lot of things run smoother. And in fact, by having good systems in place, it frees me up to be more focused on the design-centric side of me. And what I mean by that is and I know some people that are going to listen to this, you know, you're wearing a lot of hats in your company. You're doing the designs, you're doing the sales, you're helping with install, you're helping with service, you're doing accounting, you're doing payroll. Things can get very chaotic if you don't have systems in place. It helps keep the ship, in my opinion, just staying the course. And I know anyone out there that's going to listen to this, if they're all over the place, you know what I mean. So systems are very important and need to be pushed up towards the top of the pyramid. But lastly, I'm just going to end it by just reading the design-centric again. A design-centric organization is focused on collaborative relationships of design and the designer, human needs, and the customer. It's not about specifically doing the design, which is what the designer must do to achieve an end result. Rather, it's establishing this collaboration to solve problems, to find the best possible solution. And I think a lot of what I do when I go to meet a client, we find problems they never knew they had. We do get calls sometimes because people had a neighbor's house broken into, and so they're freaked out and they want light around their house. But most people don't know that an area is a little dark outside, so therefore they just don't use their outdoor room. It's not that they're scared to go out there, it's just it's not a lit, inviting room. So don't get me wrong, if you have intentions of going out and sitting on your back patio, you're going to get the citronella candles, the tiki torches, flashlights, radio, whatever. You're going to get the tea, your wine. You're going to go out there. But it's the other 98% of the time when you just come home, you've had a hard day, you got home, it's after dark, you're going to make a little something out of the fridge. And if all you're staring at is black mirrors, then you're going to go sit down at the TV or go to your office. But if those black mirrors are picture windows, because I've had it, I've lived it, where I've come into my very own home, got home, could see through there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go sit out on the patio. I would have never done that if that room wasn't lit. I would have just blown right by it. So it's that design-centric client relationship. It's that design-centric humanistic way you need to, when you meet your prospect, you need to try to approach it from how they live, what's central to them in their life in that home after dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got, Mark.
That's awesome. You know, what's interesting too is, because you talk about it in this manner between the three differences in design being what guides you or whatever. I mean, think about it, again, with how you talked about people, they come home from the end of the day, they're stressed out or they're tired, whether they've worked at the office, maybe they've been dealing with the kids all day. Having this escape, in a sense, there's a rejuvenating aspect to it, a healing aspect to this lighting system. So that connection, it's more than just you're selling additional lights, but you're creating an environment for them to where now they can enjoy that. They can use that to help heal themselves for the next day. You're right back in the routine again. This gives you a person, so again, it almost seems like a natural sale right there, just because you're addressing a need, that human need. Anyways,
Yes.
that's my thought. So
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a lawyer, where your brain is
Yep.
overworked, or if you're a homemaker and the kids were driving you crazy. It can be the guy out there pouring concrete all day. Just come down, have a place to reboot, like you said.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a natural way to do sales, just because you're solving a human need, a problem, something to help relax, to avoid the stress of daily stress.
And Mark, I never, when I'm at a consultation, I don't even, and I put together my zones, I put together the ballpark prices, and I put together all the design fees. Somebody had asked me in the class once, do you add all that up? And I purposely don't, because I don't want to get in sales mode. I don't want to think, oh, this is going to be a $20,000 job if they sign up, and I'm going to get $1,000 design fee if they do all the zones. I purposely don't look at that, because then sales Chris jumps in. It's like, okay, what are you going to do? How can you get them to commit to this design fee, and let's get it all? And I want to but to your point, it's if I just let go of all that and stay focused on them and their needs and how I can be a solution for that, the sales take care of themselves.
Yeah, it's a natural. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you.
All right.
Great,
All right.
great job. Love that. Any
All
other
right,
thoughts,
everyone.
Gary? Any last, I don't know.
That's all I got.
All right.
Time for dinner.
All right,
You got-
gentlemen.
You're 2 hours behind us, Mark, so
I know.
lots of time left tonight.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, guys. Well, have a great
All right.
evening, and thank you,
Good to see
Chris.
you.
Excellent, and
Yeah,
we'll
thank
see
you,
you
Chris.
next time.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
All right. Hey, is this a part 1 or part 2? Part 2?
No, this is just the webinar for this month.
Oh, this is it, just a one-shot deal then.
Yeah, and we do
Okay.
one of these every month. Same with the mentor group study.
Okay.
And then we'll have the courses, which will be monthly also, and that's what you're thinking of. That's the 2-parter that's coming up.
Yeah,
at the end.
I get confused, Mark. I'm
Oh, no
sorry.
worries. It's all good.
You'll keep me straight. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gary.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right. Bye.